गम्भीरमारुती.
Thank you. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavāvahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadagya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The text, read the text, the first mantra. Maitreyi iti hovāca yajnavalkyaḥ. I will repeat twice, so the second time you read it, along with me. Maitreyi iti hovāca yajnavalkyaḥ udyasyan udyasyan va are aham asmāt sthānād asmi aham asmāt sthānād asmi hanta te anaya kātyāyanyāntaṁ karavāṇīti anaya kātyāyanyāntaṁ karavāṇīti. Yajnavalkya one day over morning tea perhaps drops a bombshell, a very big bombshell, and what does he say? He says Maitreyi. Maitreyi is her name, so vocative Maitreyi, and iti thus ha uvaca said. It's a past perfect, said a long time ago, and indeed this happened, meaning this particular incident happened a long time ago, is the particle ha, the indeclinable particle ha, shows the force of time, meaning once upon a time. So how do you say once upon a time in Sanskrit? Ha. And then you use the past perfect uvaca, babhuva, like this. And then so you use ha plus uvaca because there is some kind of a, the sandhi rule, the joining of the vowels takes place, and so hovāca, iti hovāca. So Maitreyi is a quote. So Maitreyi, he actually said, iti is the quotation marks. In Sanskrit, we have, direct speech, and then when it is, direct speech, like here, Yajnavalkya is saying something, so the quotation marks, come as iti. So there is one iti here, iti hovāca yajnavalkyaḥ. So Maitreyi is in within quotes, and then again udyasyan, from there to karavāṇī is again within quotes, because look at the last word, iti. You see that? Yeah. So this is something very very nice, because here he is giving us a kind of this thing. He's giving a kind of a announcement. But his what is the announcement? The yāsyan aham asmāt sthānād asmi. I am having an idea in my head, he says. Yasyan. Yasyan, again future particle of ya, to go. So yasyan, because it's a future, participle, that means there is the intention to go, the desire to go is very much there. You know, go where? You know, asmāt sthānād yasyan. Ut means urdhvam. I'm moving forward, moving up. Not that, moving up means upar chale gaya. That is not the idea. Means what? The person died. That's not the idea. It's not that, I'm leaving this world, but I am leaving this world as we know it. I am thinking about pushing off, asmāt sthānād. Stha, to stay. Stay. In fact, the word stha and stay are similar. Looks like, Sanskrit has influenced English here. Station, stay, stand, all this from stha dhatu to be, to stay. So asmāt sthānād, from this place, yasyan, I'm moving upward, I'm moving forward. What does he mean here? Meaning I'm leaving the house. Of course, that's the most, what's the word for it? That's the most obvious meaning one can take out, that I'm leaving from this place. But here, sthanam is to be taken a little more, metaphorically, as a station, as a particular station in life. Sthanam. Yeah. There is a particular station in life. And what is the station in life? He is a much married man, married twice, and the names of both the spouses are mentioned here. One is Maitreyi, and later on Kātyāyani is also mentioned. We don't know what kind of we have no idea what kind of a conversation he had with Kātyāyani. Whether it took place or not, we don't know. And and then, maybe she said, good riddance, bye bye, who knows. Or maybe, he was closer to Maitreyi and he felt the need to sound this off and to talk to her about this. And anyhow, we don't know. We are not, the Upanishad is silent on the question of the fate of Kātyāyani, but is, right now concerns herself, the Upanishad concerns herself with the, unfolding what happens when he declares his intention. And the declaration of the intent to leave, urdhvam yāsyan, the leave from here, meaning a particular station in life. And what is the station? Grihastha. Grihe, again stha here is the suffix. Tishtati iti sthaha, the grihe tishtati iti grihastha, the one who stays at home. And until the pandemic, nobody was staying at home. People were just grihasthas for, lip service grihasthas. And all the time the house was like a hotel. You come to sleep, and then when you're really tired, you go on, you go on, what is that called? The teenagers say vacay, meaning vacation. And then after that you come back even more tired. Then you have a couple of days of staycation. That's when you say, oh, I have such a nice house. Why don't we do this more often? Why do we go spending money, going here, going there? We can just enjoy the house. But that's just a thought. That was just a thought. And all of it changed with what I call the Karuna virus. Yeah. The Karuna virus made sure that, people know that you have to, that you have a house. Everybody now knows. You can't outsource your kids. You have to sit and deal with them, teach them. You have to deal with the spouse. And then, and then you have to, so the true meaning of the word grahastha has come after March only. After everybody marched back into their homes and stayed sheltered in place. Then only the meaning of grahastha came. You discovered so many things about the spouse. You discovered so many things about the children. Some pleasant, some unpleasant in both cases, but nonetheless there were so many, so many new things. But that was not the Vedic way of life. The Vedic life, grihastha, means the home was always occupied. Somebody was always at home, just like in our olden days. grandparents' house. I mean, nobody would, the thought of just locking up and going unless there was some big wedding or some function was, was untenable. It was not even thought of. Why? Because Agnihotra had to be done, the cows had to be fed, and the people had to be fed. Like every, you bring in people, you bring in students from the Gurukula once a week and then give them food. Some people would do that, or you just catch a hold of anybody asking for food and you give them food. So the five kinds of yajna, the five kinds of offerings would take place. Pitra yajna, deva yajna, bhuta yajna, manushya yajna, all these things. Yajna means this offering, giving. So the grihastha life is one of growth and giving. Here is where one enters the first portion of the Veda. One is tied to the first portion of the Veda, and the first portion of the Veda makes you, as I told you yesterday, into a dharmic being. How does it do that? By putting you on a diet of prayer. And so that is what Kātyāyani, Maitreyi and Yajnavalkya and whatever sons and daughters they had, this is what they have been doing. They have been reproducing life, but not in a meaningless zombie kind of way that we see right now in Kali Yuga. From morning to night, it's just the whole world, the whole day is filled with violent metaphors. Some kind of a automatic zombie life. I woke up. Nobody says I woke up. I threw off the covers. I jumped out of bed. Why do you have to jump? You know. No, I jumped out of bed. Then what did you do? I jumped into the shower. Why not walk into the shower? No, I jumped into the shower. And then what? I grabbed a bite to eat. And then what? I hit the road. There is even one song. Hit the road, Jack, don't come back no more. So an old song is there. I hit the road. And then what did you do? I cranked out some emails at work. Then what happened? I became cranky naturally. And then what? On the way there, I hit the road. On the way back, I beat the traffic. Something you have to do. All violent. The whole day is lived in violent, mindless metaphors. Nobody, after coming home, nobody cooks. What did you do? I threw something together. And if you're a teenager, you'll say, I just nuked something, meaning put it in a microwave. I nuked something. And then after that, what happened? I crashed. Yeah, this is what the life is. This is not a Vaidika life. This is not a life, that is recommended by the Vedas for the sake of self-growth. Not at all. No Hindu should throw the bed out of the covers and jump out of bed. No. As soon as you wake up, there is a prayer. Karagre vasate Lakshmihi, karamadhye tu Saraswati, karatale tu Govindah, pratah karadarshanam. And so, looking at the hands, these are my organs of actions. And I look at the organs of action, with a view to what? With a view to seeing that they are blessed. The goddess of prosperity, may she reside on the fingertips. May she be backed by knowledge and then by Bhagavan. Everything that I do is for the sake of Bhagavan. These hands may they be the instrument of all the things I am supposed to achieve. This is what the prayer is. Then the feet touch the ground. Then again another prayer. I don't know what I did yesterday, but today let me not be a burden on you, Mother Earth. Nobody should, jump into the shower. Gange cha yamane chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Asmin Shavar Jale Sannidhim Kuru. You have to say, may all the holy rivers enter this shower that under which I am standing. So the body is sanctified, outer shaucham, and then inner shaucham. May it inspire me to have clean, thoughts, clean ragas, clean dveshas, meaning raga dveshas devoid of the pressure. May I have that? May I be blessed with that? And then what? And then, nobody, hits the road. You don't hit anything. You don't grab a bite to eat. It's an inner yajna. And then you realize it's all a yajna. It's all a prayer. Everything is a prayer. There's nothing secular about the Hindu culture. Nothing secular about India except perhaps the government. Nothing secular at all. It's a completely spiritual, 100% spiritual culture, whose moorings we see in the life of Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi, from illustrated in this particular story in the Upanishad. Very beautiful. And so, there is no, the first stage, of course, is called Brahmacharya, student life, where all you do is study. You don't have a paper route. You don't, you don't get into all kinds of things. And you don't have boyfriend, girlfriend at that age, because that age is for studies. And then, as a grihastha, you contribute to the society. Because as a student, you have just been a consumer and you keep on taking. And now you give back. And this is the time to give back. That's why so much prayer in the form of giving back. You give back to the animals, and even the smallest ant is not left out, because you have made a beautiful rangoli in the front of your house with not some kind of a stone powder. That was never used. What was used was rice powder. Yeah, because the cockroaches and ants are gluten free. So, you know, rice powder. Okay, so rice powder rangoli nicely you make. And it was a natural form of pest control. You sweep it with cow dung, and the cow dung has antiseptic properties, and then you do this rangoli, so you feed them there. They don't come into the house. And starting with that, every aspect of life is lived mindfully, again to achieve this inner growth, which makes one ready to say precisely what Yajnavalkya tells Maitreyi. Yasyan asmāt sthānād aham asmi. Are Maitreyi. You know? So this is he is not this must not be interpreted as though he is sick of being married because he has two wives. Obviously he is very happy, because you can see that the relationship with Maitreyi, as we will see as the Upanishad unfolds, is so tender, so beautiful. They share a very wonderful love. And so it is not that he is wanting to out of the relationship. He is just ready to move on to the next station in life. Perhaps they were already, the next station described in the Veda is called Vanaprasthin, or Vani for short, Vanin for short. And what does this Vanin? Mostly meditators. The husband and the wife give the keys of the house and all the property to the children, and then they just take some simple belongings, mostly spiritual books, etc., go to the forest, build a small hut. Even kings used to do that. Spiritually minded kings, they would they would give the what's its name they would give the keys of the kingdom. The throne would go to the son, and then so the son and daughter-in-law would rule the kingdom, and the king would repair. We see this in what is that, in the description beautifully in the ninth canto of the Raghuvamsha, Rama's family, Kalidasa's poetry, and Aja and his father Dilipa. You see the contrast. Aja is embarking on trying to, what is that, find out, go incognito, see the various parts of the kingdom, and then, get to know his praja, and because now he is the Raja. And then he is mastering the kingdom, he is sending out spies, and they are bringing back information, and then he is just, ruling. And his father, what is his father is doing? His father is sending out all the ragadveshas and telling them don't come back. And and the son is going outward. One whole section is there, beautiful. The son is going outward. He's out and about and ready to take on the charge and the reins of the kingdom. And the father is going inwards. The son is ready to rule the outer kingdom. The father wants Swarajya, the mastery of the inner kingdom. Very beautifully put. The whole contrast is very nice. So this is Vani, Vanaprasthin. And it looks like, Kātyāyani and company, who else, Maitreyi and Yajnavalkya were already in the Vanaprastha stage. Why? Because no children are mentioned. Children are perhaps there, or we don't know. But only these three are there. And then, and then he says, Urdhvam yāsyan. Ut here stands for Urdhvam, upwards, meaning not directionally upwards, but station-wise upwards. Like I'm getting myself, I would like to have a promotion. A promotion to what? After the last stage of life. What is the last stage of life? Sannyasa. Sannyasa, where even this the life of a meditator and some small possessions that you have and whatever you have, and you have your wife or spouse with you who is like a friend, and then you go to the forest together, and even this connection or the reliance on the spouse, even in the form of a friend, is put an end to. And then the person goes. There is no monthly, what is that called? There is no monthly remuneration. There is no monthly payback. There is no you and the sky. That's all it is. Moolam taroho kevalam ashrayantah panidvaye bhoktum amantrayantah kanthamiva strin kutsayantah kaupinavantah khalu bhagyavantah. There is one Kaupina Panchakam, an ode to the loin cloth, meaning the one, who owns a loin cloth is the best of all, is the most blessed of all. Why? Because they have a huge house. How big is the house? As big as the universe. They can go anywhere. Each place is a room, each city is a room, each country is a room. They can go anywhere. And where is their bedroom? Under this particular tree under which they happen to be lying down. That is where they are taking ashraya, they are taking refuge under the tree. And then they have wonderful set of dinnerware, china. Oh, bone china. Yes, bone china. Very nice. It definitely has bones. Why? Because panidvayam. These two, this is the bone china, and this is the hand. This is the plate. This is the spoon. This is what this is. Look at the freedom here. And then everything else, starting with family life, etc., they have as much, they give as much importance to it as one would give to a useless bark of a tree. Kaupinavantaha, the people who are the possessors of this loin cloth, are the most blessed, says this particular poem. Very, very nice. And so this is sannyasa, where this is a wonderful, this is the final stage of the stations in life, sthanam. So the final stage is called atyashrama. In fact, the other three are called ashramas. Sannyas ashrama is called atyashrami, meaning you have transcended the need for even ashrama. You just go away and atmani eva atmana tushtah. So you go away and you are either completely and totally content with yourself, in which case you can set to be having a form of sannyasa that is called vidvat sannyasa, a sannyasa that is taken as a result of knowledge. But then one is very busy as a grihastha, and one doesn't have time to contemplate and to read the shastra some more and to be with the shastra, so one takes to a life of sannyasa. A knowledgeable person taking sannyasa is called a vidvat sannyasi. Vidvat means the person of knowledge, like Yajnavalkya's sannyasa here, or his intent to renounce the married life shows vidvat sannyasa. How do we know? From all the other contexts, we know about his scholarship, we know about his erudition. Vidvat sannyasa. Or sannyasa is taken for the sake of moksha. And then in that case it is called vividisha veditum ichha. San pratyaya. So veditum ichha, the desire to know. Know what? Yourself as free of all, of being a wanting person. So for that sake, sannyasa is taken, and so there is only there are many other kinds of sannyasa, but these two are primary. Vidvat sannyasa, if the person is already having the knowledge of the self, so the sannyasa is mere, way of just being with oneself. Or vividisha sannyasa, a sannyasa that is taken in order to hasten or in order to commit oneself totally for the sake of moksha, if one is ready, of course. And again, this sannyasa, the fourth stage, usually people go stage 1, brahmacharya, stage 2, grihastha, vanaprastha, then sannyasa. That is what is called, a train with many, many stops. And one stop is marriage, one stop is children, one stop is, going on a holiday, all these things. But you are still going towards sannyasa, or whatever it represents. It represents vairagya, it represents renunciation, tyaga, all these things. You are slowly progressing. Or you, from brahmacharya, you can directly take sannyasa. It's called non-stop moksha express. You just you just go straight, and then you don't get off, and then you just go. That is also permitted. And we hear, yad aharam virajet, tad aharam eva pravrajet. When the desire to give up a particular thing in life, or a particular station in life comes, please don't look to the left, please don't look to the right, give it up on that day itself. Why? Otherwise the ahankara will second guess and your resolve will be gone. Before you know it, the resolve is gone. Therefore, this particular injunction is given. And so now what is happening? The sage here, Yajnavalkya, wants to take sannyasa. And so he puts it in so he drops a bombshell on poor Maitreyi first thing in the morning, or whenever the conversation takes place. Perhaps she hadn't even had her morning coffee, and instead of morning coffee she has to hear these words. Maitreyi, iti hovāca yajnavalkyaḥ. Maitreyi, thus said Yajnavalkya, udyasyan va are. So are Maitreyi, he said. Are means honey. This is how he addressed her. It's an expression of tenderness, or whatever the example, whatever the word for honey was in ancient Vedic times. Honey is the closest we can have now. Oh my darling, oh my dearest one, oh my dearest Maitreyi. What? Hanta, indeed. Anaya, aham udyasyan. I'm pushing off from this. I wish to shake off this mantle, this title, which is almost tattooed on the forehead now. Grihastha. Yeah, householder. Actually, the person is held by the house held. And even though the person says I'm householder, I say okay, drop if you're holding something. I'm holding this, handkerchief. And then if I'm a handkerchief holder, I can drop it, correct? So if you're a householder, you should be able to drop the house. But nobody is able to drop. Oh, how can I drop? Oh, no, I can't do this. So you're not a householder, you're house held, yeah, held by various responsibilities. And Yajnavalkya full well knows that it's time to move on. Maybe maybe they were living through a pandemic so that his maturity came on, or maybe he was naturally, as a result of this knowledge, he was very mature. And so he perhaps, as a husband. And the second thing is this, that you can't just go off whenever you feel like. If you are a grihastha, you have to take permission from, people who are dependent on you. Wife, mostly wife, and if the and the mother. Mother because she gave birth. If the mother is alive, because she went through so much, she went through hell to give birth to you. She kept you in her tummy for 9 months. She went through labor pains, plus all kinds of sleepless nights to raise this child. And now if the child needs to go, and so the mother has to be informed, and the mother's permission is taken. In where? In vividisha sannyasa, not in vidvat sannyasa. In vidvat sannyasa there are no rules, no rules whatsoever. Ko vidhihi, ko nishedha. Shukashtakam, another beautiful octet composed by Vyasa's, Lord Vyasa's son Shuka. That is the refrain in this Shukashtakam. Beautiful text. Everybody should study that. And so, in this Shukashtakam, it says, Ko vidhihi, ko nishedha. For the person who knows, I am everything. That person is going to say, oh honey, I want your permission. Please give me permission to go take sannyasa. No. So these rules apply to the second kind of sannyasi wannabes, namely vividisha sannyasinaha, meaning the people who want to take to a life of this knowledge, and for the sake of moksha they are taking sannyasa. And so so such people, they need to follow some krama, some rules, some niyamas, and the niyama includes talking to the wife, preparing the wife, and preparing the children, preparing the mother. Father is not mentioned at all, but mother is definitely mentioned. This is all the dharma shastra rules. And then what is that, and preparing them, and not only preparing them mentally and emotionally, but seeing that they are provided for physically, monetarily. This is the dharma of the sannyasi wannabe. Otherwise, everybody will go. There is no difference between this and somebody who has left. When the going gets tough, what happens? The tough get going. This is not sannyasa. But here, it is done in a responsible way. Now, back to something I said a little earlier. What kind of sannyasa is Yajnavalkya entitled to? Is it vividisha sannyasa, the desire to know, or is it vidvat sannyasa, a sannyasa born of knowledge, the desire to give up as a result of knowledge? It is the latter, correct? So if it is the latter, and there are no rules for that, he should have just got up and gone. Maitreyi looks for him, and then and then makes only 1 cup of coffee that day because she deduces that he has left. But he still follows the rules. Why? Audarya, that shows his greatness. Audarya means udarasya bhava. Audarya, that shows his greatness, his exaltedness. Why he is fit to be a jnani is shown here. As a jnani, he doesn't have to ask anybody's permission for anything. Yet so lovingly he calls his wife, and he talks it out with her. He talks about his intention. He talks about, his desire. He speaks to her about it. And in so doing, and as we will see in the Vartika, we'll start a little bit of Vartika from tomorrow, Vartika, some few verses we'll start looking at tomorrow. And he doesn't have to be accountable, because he's beyond all that. But yet, he follows the rules. He follows the rules. Why does he follow the rules? Because he is too great. The following of the rules, when you don't have to follow the rules, shows the person's greatness. And I found that in Pujya Swamiji's life also. He need not have done so many things, but then when he talked to people, he would, always be very gracious and go down to their level and talk to them about whatever interested them. Be there for them. And so that shows the greatness of the person. The humility here, and the and the beauty of this, dialogue, cannot be underscored. And he says, what does he say? Udyasyan. I'm desirous of going off, moving upward to the next station in life. I want to go off. And after I go off, what happens? Hanta, hanta, listen, listen. Hanta means some a kind of a particle, again an indeclinable particle to indeclinable phrase to show the person's, to show that the person is, what is that, is calling out to pay attention, to emphasize what happens, because this is an important topic. Hanta, hanta, indeed, listen, listen, you know. Antam karavāṇī, I'm putting an end. You know what? Te, not to you, I'm not putting an end to you. Anaya kātyāyanya, I'm putting an end to the connection, to the kind of connection that we have had thus far. I'm putting an end to the kind of connection that we have had, I have enjoyed with you, and I have enjoyed with Katyayani. Antam karavāṇīti, first meaning. I'm changing this relationship. I'm putting an end to the spouse role. I'm dropping the role of the spouse. Consciously dropping the role of the spouse. And if the role of the spouse is dropped, that means what? You have to forge the relationship from the beginning. Very difficult. And very difficult to explain also. How to explain, I don't know. I suppose in modern times, I don't even know how to explain this. What kind of an example to give? I suppose the closest example is when somebody, these youngsters, we see this, somebody unfortunately breaks up with a significant other. They are incompatible. They are not able to get along. Yet they have respect for each other. So what do they say? Okay, we divide up the properties. This you brought, you take it back. This is mine, I take it back. And then we are two different people. And so maybe there are children involved for whose sake they have to sometimes come together and relate and make decisions. Or they like each other as human beings. They respect each other, but they are not able to get along as partners. So what do? They forge a new relationship where certain things for which there is no avenue. There is no avenue anymore to take the other person for granted, or to assume that the person likes this or likes that, or doesn't like this or doesn't like that. They get to know, that's why it's called X. They get to know the X from a different standpoint. They have to, because the relationship they had before was not working at all. So that's the closest example. And here, of course, that example is limited. It's a very finite example to illustrate the infinite here, so to speak, and what is going to be the knowledge of the infinite. And so, he says, I am going, and I'm desirous of going. He declares his desire and expresses his intentionality, and he says, Anayaka te means with you, with reference to you, and Kātyāyanya with reference to her, the Anaya, the other one, the other Kātyāyini, and you. Antam karavāṇī, first meaning, I am putting an end, I would like to put an end to the ways that we have been relating. First meaning. But then this being the Upanishad, it's always very rich and full of depth. There is also one more deeper meaning. Antam karavāṇī means I will make a final settlement with the property. And he was not a poor sadhu. He was an extremely rich man. Hugely rich. Very, very rich man. He had, like I told you yesterday, he had cattle, he had land, acres and acres of land, houses, all kinds of things. And, along with these, you will be a very rich lady. Maitreyi and Kātyāyani, two rich ladies. Next time you will come under the Fortune 500 list, whatever the ancient version of that was. Two women entrepreneurs, what is the owners of businesses, dairy farm, because he had lot of cattle. And, you will be put in the newspaper and you will have a gala time. You won't lack anything, domestic help to do all the whatever, to take care of the cows and all. And then, what is that, horses are there, or they were somebody tells me there is a big contention that horses were not there in Vedic India, so ashwa doesn't mean horse, so maybe it means some kind of a mule. So mules were there. There's some beasts of burden that could be domesticated for ploughing the land and tilling whatever it was, the acreage. Or to, you could tie a cart, it would pull a cart, it would pull logs of wood, whatever was needed it would do. And so, and you will have, horse carts, mule carts, whatever it is. So it's like, the ancient BMW. You can have an elaborate cart sitting in front of the house with a chauffeur ready. You can just go. You can go shopping. You can go attend another yajna. You can morning yajna, evening yajna. That was their social life, in those days. And all this you can just go and you can have a gala time. You can nobody to catch hold of you, nobody you have to ask for anything. I have so much wealth and you both will be extremely comfortable. Meaning he is reassuring, he is not only sort of asking her permission, but in so doing, he is reassuring her that she will not lack for any kind of a standard of living. And whatever she enjoyed in her life with Yajnavalkya, she will enjoy even without him being around. This is his, promise. Antam karavāṇīti. And then what? The Maitreyi, then there is a full stop, meaning he stops talking. And Maitreyi must have nerves of steel because she doesn't break down, she doesn't cry, she doesn't complain, or she doesn't rave and rant. What do you mean you're going? How can you do this? Over my dead body you will go. No emotional, guilt trick, guilt trip or guilt trick. I don't know, but both are the same. So no guilt tricking, no emotional, what is that, waterworks, nothing. Oh, I have served you for so long, and then you have done this to me, and then now, what are you doing to me? And you are going, how will I live? No, no such thing. And that's why she is shown to be a fitting spouse of this fitting sage, a sage in her own right. No histrionics, no waterworks, no anger, no fear. And if she had a shock, she had so much titiksha. Look at her candidacy for this knowledge. In fact, she is as qualified as Yajnavalkya to gain this knowledge. And so look at this, look at this in her non-reaction. You see, sometimes in the absence of something, you see the presence of something else, which is something which is a big clue. Sometimes absence, is a clue to the presence. And the absence of histrionics, the absence of a big drama, the absence of all kinds of, complaints. You were always like this. You've always been sitting with palm leaf manuscripts all your life, and you had no time for me. And what is this? Even Kātyāyani was complaining, and this is what you're doing now. What is the need for sannyasa? What if a lion catches you and eats you? How will I feel? I will not be able to live properly, and you can't do this to me. No such thing. She presents with a very, an iron will, a mind of steel. So we can have some clues to her candidacy, her qualification for this Vidya. Very beautiful. From her non-reaction we see some wonderful things. What do we see? She definitely has what is called titiksha. What is titiksha? Titiksha means forbearance. sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam sa titiksha nigadyate. She is known as titiksha. Titiksha is a she, okay, the noun. The word titiksha is a she. She is known as titiksha. And why is she known as titiksha? Because, the quality through which the value or the attitude or the quality through which sahanam sarva dukkhanam takes place, where all the sorrows are taken, in without any outward reaction. Vilapa, crying, screaming, pulling the hair out like a Kaikeyi Patra. Kaikeyi Patra means Kaikeyi's role. Kaikeyi had the opposite reaction, correct? Yeah. She went into the anger management room, Kopa Bhavanam. Every house should have that, I tell you. And then she tore her hair out. She tore all her. 1 minute Dasharatha left her choosing her saris. She was dressing up. And then her hair was being done nicely with flowers and or gems in her hair, by all her maids. And then she threw everything off and tore up the saris and then was screaming her head off. So that is the opposite of titiksha. So here, sahanam sarva dukkhanam, the ability to stay with something, the meaning, the ability of radical acceptance. This is very important. Okay, he's going, whether I rant or rave, even if I'm able to bring him back, even if I'm able to change his mind, will he be happy here, sitting here, now that he's asked for permission to go? All this she has thought of, and so that means what? He is going, full stop. He wants to go, and even if he doesn't go, he's already declared his intention to go. So what good is he if he stays? And then you already know, the one as the spouse already knows, okay, this person is not interested in being here. What is the point? And so she shows a great maturity by this non-reactivity is titiksha. It's easy to not react. Sometimes you can stuff it all in, like a masala dosa with potatoes, potato curry inside a dosa. You can stuff it in nicely. But what good is that? What good is that if you stuff it in? Because it can just then come out of the ears, come out of every, out of the nostrils, like in comic books you see, fumes coming out of the ears, out of the holes in the head, out of the eyes, out of the nose. That's how you see in the comic that this character is very angry. And here too, you can implode. You may not explode, but you can implode. Sometimes people, because of the background, you have a background of pain and sorrow, and you learn to stuff the feelings. People learn to stuff the feelings, all right, but then if you keep on stuffing, what happens? It will just explode one day. You either explode or you harm yourself and you implode. So therefore, the two definitions of titiksha. Titiksha means what? The ability to, to have forbearance and non-reactivity outwardly with regard to the organs of action, with regard to eyes, whatever, all the things, sense organs. There is not a reaction, and then there is no loud lament, vilapa. And then there is no inward lament. What did I do wrong? Why does he want to leave me? How can I be so, worthless? How wonderfully I have served him, and then, this is what is happening. And this is something which is, which is so common for these feelings to come, but Maitreyi seems to be immune. She doesn't have those feelings at all. Neither outwardly she reacts, nor inwardly she implodes or she starts to feel sorry for herself. No, none of these things. So she has titiksha. And in this, in her non-response, we also, and in her non-response to the situation. But then what does she react to? She reacts not to his going. She catches hold of why he is going. She catches hold of the reason why he is going. And then she says, oh, it is to to have nishtha, to have, to abide in this knowledge. That's why you are going. And then what does she say? You know, I also want to go. What you want, I will also have that. Why should I not have that? And how can you think? How can you think that, that I will not be interested in the same thing that you are interested in? How can you think? And then, this is so the second qualification is mumuksha, moktum ichha. So titiksha is there, and then, shraddha is there, because then she becomes a student and Yajnavalkya turns into the teacher. And it's a very beautiful moment. I will point it out in the text, and also in the Vartika we will see that. You know, it's a beautiful moment where the husband turns into the teacher and she subtly recognizes it. He also acknowledges it. Very, very nice. And and then he was saying, Antam Karavāṇī, I'm going to put an end to this relationship. He thought, oh, with all, there's some masculine ahankara maybe there. Okay, I'll stride off and she'll be there meditating at home. But here she surprised him and she put an end to the relationship by minting herself as the student. She put an end to that husband-wife relationship first. Very interesting, very beautiful. And a nod to Indian women are made up of strong stuff, very, very strong stuff. And this is actually, we can say that this is an Upanishad story. It's an akhyayika for us to understand this knowledge. But we also have a similar real life, tale like this. One of the commentators of the, what is that called? The Brahma Sutra was a very learned man by the name of Vachaspati Mishra. Vachaspati Mishra, learned man, and unfortunately a workaholic. Okay. All the time with his stencil and palm manuscripts, writing this, writing that, and many things he wrote were wrong, but nonetheless he wrote a lot of right things also. We respect him in the tradition as a scholar, because the what is the tradition other, if there are no matas, doing some kind of a, like a polarity rubbing against one another. So the tradition is full of various kinds of contentions. He was wrong, because especially on the count of, he thought in the Taittiriya Upanishad Anandamaya means, Ananda. He doesn't, see the difference. Where this Maya, the Maya comes for a modification of Ananda, that the meaning of the word Maya itself is modification. He doesn't see that. So he says a few wrong things, but nonetheless a great scholar, quoted by Adi Shankara. And he writes a book, a commentary, and what is it called? He names it after his wife, Bhamati. Bha means, shine of knowledge. Bhamati means the one who is a self-effulgent, shining being. That was the name of his wife. And before you hastily conclude, oh, he must have loved his wife so much to name a whole magnum opus on her, let me disabuse you of this notion. In fact, he forgot that he had a wife. He spent many years writing this book, manuscript, and many drafts, some wrong, some right. He kept on doing this, writing. And the poor thing, from morning to night, brought him his coffee, where he was sitting, brought him his breakfast, washed his clothes, cleaned his, cleaned his room, and then, brought him his lunch, dinner, everything, Then one day when the book was finally close to finishing, he suddenly came back to himself and he looked. After 24 years of married life, he looks at her and he says, and he saw a lady with grey hair, wearing a sari and, looking at him. And then he said, who are you? And, what an insult, a slap on the face. But she again, a woman of steel. I tell you, women are naturally, really, in certain ways, it is very easy to qualify for this knowledge. For women, and for men it is easier in certain other ways. We'll talk about that a little later. And she said, I'm your wife. And he said, oh, but you have grey hair. She said, yeah, we have been married for 27 years now. Now what else will happen if I don't have grey hair? Of course, you also have grey hair. And so then he says, well, I have been writing this book, and now I desire to go for sannyasa. Same thing. She doesn't stop him, because what kind of companionship was he giving anyway to to stop him? And she realized the futility of it, because he was in his own thing. And then soon after this, then he felt so bad when he understood that she had served him night and day, year after year, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. She had served him, so he named the book after her, and then he went and took sannyasa. This is the story. This is the modern Maitreyi story, you know. And so Bhamati was great, definitely, and Maitreyi is also very, very great, because we see already she has mumuksha, the desire for this knowledge is there, the desire for freedom is there, and the desire for freedom is not wanting to go bungee cord jumping and feel free somewhere, or go skydiving and feel free like this. That's not the freedom she knows. Freedom is internal, freedom from the pressure of long standing desires. This is what she needs to be free from. She knows this. And so she has titiksha, she has shraddha, as we will find out, the ability to have this trust, have this devotion for this teaching, reverence for the teaching. And then she has samadhanam, single minded focus, because that is clear right now. Here he is saying, I am leaving, I would like to leave, and her whole marriage is falling apart. And instead she hones in on, how come you want to leave? For moksha. What is this moksha? That is what she's going to ask in her response, which we'll see in the next class, in the evening class. I mean, she'll say, what is this moksha? She's going to ask. You're going for that, and I'm, your ardhangini, I'm your wife, I'm entitled to half of everything. And since the infinite cannot be halved, you have to give the whole thing to me. Before you go, after that you go, no problem. I will also join you. That is what she says. So her candidacy is very, very, wonderful. And so in this way, women are blessed, because there is very, socially, what is that, nurturing in the socialization of girls. Girls are not lauded for being a karta. We talked about kartritvam. Girls are not, encouraged to think of yourself as karta. You always sort of defer to somebody else. You stand in the background. You let somebody else take the kudos, the merit, and you just sort of, do everything in the background. This is what one is socialized to do. So, at least in the ancient times, that kartritva buddhi is not strong in women, was not strong. And so, what does Vedanta say? Drop the kartritvam. That is very easy. So, for women, easier to do. But women also have a burden, which makes it a little more difficult for this, where the work needs to be done. The bhokta, bhoktritvam, that I am the cause, I am because of me, that responsibility translates into a certain victimization. Here is where women, because of certain vulnerabilities, socialization, lack of opportunity, whatever it might be historically, that is what is that? That is the Achilles heel. That is the vulnerable point. That identification with victimization, so, he has to be dropped. And then what? For men, the identification, I am a doer, I am the greatest, I am the best, east or west, that has to be dropped. That is the difficulty. Men don't feel victimized, so that part is easy for them, So either way, one has to work hard in certain ways to gain these qualifications. The qualifications are 9/10 of the knowledge. When the qualifications are gained, moksho dvari lelayate bahihi. Moksha dances outside the door. This is from Bodhasara, another text we have been studying. Moksha dances outside the door and says, "Come, join me." Moksha comes in uninvited because your nature is mukta. You are already free. And so we see in Maitreyi, not just nerves of steel, but a completely objective, mature person for whom the shadow self is not at all in the picture. The shadow self is not coming in the picture. Oh, what will happen to me? How can you do this to me? I thought you loved me more than Katyayani. Now you are leaving us both. All this is not there. No drama, only Rama. The D has gone, you know. So, and how, so what does she say? And how this story moves forward, we will see in the next class. We will also look at the Vartika. So don't worry if you are not able to download the Vartika. Somebody said, I think Chandan is not here now. Chandan said that if you are, that he was having trouble downloading the Vartika. So don't worry if you are having trouble downloading the Vartika. There are some hacks, and I will teach you two hacks here. So one is, then the one thing you can do is open a Dropbox account and put the Vartika there. If you're interested in following it, you can just transfer it there and read it online. And the second one is, of course, easier. Do nothing, just listen to the verses when I chant and just follow along. Don't worry about it. Okay? So those two options are there, and there may be some other ideas you also have. I will, let you think about that. See you later on. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yeah. There is a song named Karuniso Ranga Karuniso by Purandaradasa. It describes one state. Please listen if you can. I see the bhaktas in Tirupati doing hejje, namaskara, or bending down to apply vermilion to each and every step while climbing up the hill. There are others well read in the Vedas have jnana and also performing relevant extreme selfless karma yoga. In such a scenario, can a normal samsari, neither being completely detached janani nor being devoted bhakta, uh, aim to attain moksha in this life? Is it necessary to be the best in whichever path one chooses? Is the spiritual path also competitive? It's a competitive race where outliers make it and the average person have to keep sailing. No. Very nice question, beautiful question. I'm glad you asked this, very nice. So, wonderful question. So here, we have this, these questions are very pertinent. Do you have to be completely detached? See, we are not talking of detachment. Detachment we talk about only if you are attached. You're not attached. The attachment is as though it's an adhyasa, it's an aropa, like the rope snake. And so really, the word we use is asanga, uninvolved. So we are talking of a cognitive, shift in one's role. I'll talk more about that. We are, talking of a cognitive shift, not a material shift. The cognitive shift can later, fructify into a material shift of your station in life. That, is a matter of time. But we begin with a cognitive shift, a cognitive dropping in the wake of the understanding that these things that I have surrounded my life with, whether it's roles, pursuits, whatever they may be, people, things, are not going to give me give this union with myself, which is an already attained fact, but I have to know it. So then those other pursuits are dropped, and that dropping is important. So first it's the cognitive dropping. Certain things are cognitively dropped and certain things are actually dropped. And you can continue. with your family life, with your whatever it is, and it's not about a race, because the race is when the finish line is away from you, but the finish line is you, the wayfarer is you, the finish line is you, everything is you, the runner is you, everything is you. So therefore there is no competition and there are no outliers. What we have is sages like Maitreyi, like Yajnavalkya, examples and role models to follow. So we follow them with great happiness. That's what the whole thing is. Okay? Yeah, I'll talk about this more in the next class because it will be relevant. Yeah. Thank you. Om Tat Sat.